Hi folks, and welcome back to another history lesson video. Last week we looked at inventions in the Victorian home. This week we're going to look at some famous Victorians. We're going to look at what they did to make them famous and how people found out about them. Well, to be famous is to be known about by many people. And in the Victorian period, to be famous, you had to be of importance in your field, either a politician, a monarch, an archbishop, maybe even a local landowner, or your actions had to have had a profound impact on people's lives in some way. Maybe you were a social reformer, or an inventor, or a scientist. Now, due to new developments in technology and communication and media, and even lifestyle, the Victorian era witnesses the beginnings of celebrity culture in the way that we see today. So what sort of people are famous today? Well, we have celebrity chefs such as Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, Heston Blumenthal. We have celebrity sportsmen and women, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewis Hamilton, Serena Williams. We have famous inventors such as Elon Musk, James Dyson, Steve Jobs. And we have scholars and academics. We have people like the rock star scientist Brian Cox. We have Professor Stephen Hawking, who recently departed. And we've also got historian Bettany Hughes, all very famous academics. We have famous writers. We have George R.R. Martin, J.K. Rowling, Dan Brown. And we have musicians, performers, comedians such as Bruno Mars, Beyonce, Dave Chappelle, Brian Blessed. And we have famous rulers and world leaders and politicians. Think of the Queen, Pope Francis, or even Boris Johnson. And we have philanthropists, people like George Soros, who gives a lot of money to political movements, and people like Sir Tom Hunter, who starts a lot of charities. Now, although before the Victorian period, the number of people we would consider to be famous or celebrities was much smaller, we do start to see the emergence of a popular culture celebrity class during the Victorian period. In the Victorian period, they too had celebrity chefs such as Mrs. Beeton. Now that's a bit unfair on Mrs. Beeton. She was far more than just a chef. She wrote books about homekeeping, she was a journalist and a writer, but she was very well known for her recipes. In fact, one of her books contains over 900 different recipes. We also see the emergence of famous sportsmen like W.G. Grace, Bob Fitzsimmons, William Fatty Folk. We have inventors, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, Carl Benz, the inventor of the car, Michael Faraday, somebody that worked on electricity in the early stages. We have famous scholars and academics in the Victorian period too. Charles Darwin with his theory of evolution. We have famous writers, Charles Dickens, the Bronte sisters, Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes. And we start to see famous musicians, comedians, stage performers, people in the performing arts. Gilbert and Sullivan wrote very famous jingles and songs. Dan Leno was a famous comedian. Oscar Wilde, a great playwright. And also rulers, world leaders and politicians. Queen Victoria, Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, Lord Shaftesbury, who did a lot of social reform. And we also have famous philanthropists. Think Florence Nightingale, who did so much for the nursing industry, and Dr. Barnardo, who started charities. So you can see that there were famous people in the Victorian period, just like there are today. But it's the Victorian period and the changes that take place during that period that allows this new class of celebrity people to start to emerge. Let's find out why. So the first thing I'd like you to do is a little task. I'd like you to think of as many famous people as you can who are famous today, who are alive today, who have contributed something today. And then I want you to think about the 5 most famous, the 5 people that you think most people will know about. And I want you to write those names in order of how famous they are, if you wish, in the first box that I've provided on your worksheet. Pause the video whilst you do it. Okay, now that you've done that, I want you to think about how you found out about those people. Did you hear about them from the news, television, films? Did you find out about them from the internet? Okay, and for each one of those 5 people, write down how you know about that person. So why were there less famous people before the Victorian era, and how did the Victorian era lead to change? Well, before the Victorian period, there were less opportunities to be a famous person because film didn't exist, radio didn't exist, the internet didn't exist, and there were no professional sports leagues, and there were few international sports events. In short, there were just fewer people in the public eye. Secondly, the forms of media that did exist in the Victorian period were limited in number and in their distance of circulation, meaning how far around the world or the country that information could be spread. This meant that even if someone was doing something particularly innovative, exciting, or impressive, there were only a few ways in which you would find out about that person, either by word of mouth, local newspapers, or books. Now remember, not everybody would have access to newspapers and books, either through their lack of education or through lack of funds available to purchase such things. And finally, the pre-industrial lifestyle was so rigorous, relentless, that many people just simply did not have the time or the energy to care about celebrities or famous people. Once working weeks and weekends became a common fixture in towns and cities, people would have more time. As a result, people developed new skills. Some became good at sports, and we'd see the emergence of professional footballers, cricketers, and boxers. Other people would enjoy watching sports, visiting the theatre, going to lectures, or other performing arts, and, as a result, sportsmen, academics, and actors all started to appear, and people had more time to read about them, go and visit them, and go and see them. So the three main factors why people start to become famous in the Victorian period is there is an opportunity for people to become famous through new developments. Secondly, there is a wider circulation of news and media to inform people, so therefore people become famous because of their actions as other people learn about them. And finally, changes in lifestyle meant that people have more free time to become good at things they might become famous for, or to go and find out about other people.